You have one new voicemail.
Hi! So you would be so proud of me. I'm hosting Thanksgiving for my friends, and I was stressed because I really wanted it to feel just like Michigan. But then I found the same stuffing mix that you use on Instacart. And I ordered instant gravy, canned cranberry, what else? Oh, I got everyone a little butter sculpture shaped like a turkey. All right, I should probably get cooking, but I miss you today. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. Oh, and you should download Instacart. It's way easier than sending Dad to the store.
Download Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
What's up, Cuzzy Wuzzies? It's me, Giannis Pappas, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm here with Chris DiStefano, and you're listening to the Bay Ridge Boys History Hyenas.
Yeah! Yas. I want to think of a masculine. There's got to be a masculine way to do yas.
Yeah.
Yas.
No.
Yas.
Yes.
Welcome to another episode of the History Hyenas.
We are here. I'm Chris DiStefano.
I am true gay Giannis P.
A TBG.
TBG's only, cuzzy.
True blue gays. Thank you so much for checking in. We got a great podcast today, as always, but today is fucking dope. And
Oh, my
it's
God.
Yeah.
Another episode, piggybacking off another one of our romantic history tours that we did.
Yeah, we love doing walking tours.
Cuz we should hold hands during one of those just to see what the tour guide says.
Yeah, what could they say? Well, a lot of the tour guides for BigOnion.com, we are giving BigOnion.com so many shout outs. Please, I hope you guys are going to take the tours. They are not a sponsor, and I guess now they'll never be because we gave it to them for free. Why would they ever pay? But, capitalism, but we should. I think if we held hands and we made out in the middle of a tour, they wouldn't care because they're all progressive graduate students. They would be like, "That's what New York's about."
Yeah, they are. They're what Mr. Panos would call San Francisco string beans. That's what he calls them, San Francisco string beans.
San Francisco string beans.
They do good stuff.
Yeah, it's great tours.
And if they ever heard this, they probably wouldn't even want our sponsor.
Well, yeah,
they'd be like, "We loved it until you said the word fumes. And then we were out."
Yeah,
we're about history, not fumes.
We've objectified both female tour guides.
You know why we do that?
Why?
Because we're fucking history hyenas.
That's what!
We are from the animal kingdom, and we can't even trace our lineage because we are fucking wild.
Cuz there's no way I could tame my pseudo-penis.
How fucking wild is that,
Pseudo-penis. Hyenas females give birth to their pseudo-penises.
Yeah.
How wild is that, Bardo? By the way, Bardo's here. Well, let's fucking introduce her. Bardo Church is here, White Wasp, Zach Isis Face. Where's Mini Mussolini? Is he not coming today?
He's getting chewed out by Hitler. How he hasn't been able to take Greece from the last episode.
Yeah, Mini Moose.
Yeah.
But,
I also got big news.
What happened?
I got big news, cuz.
Oh, yeah.
And me and you know it because we were just rolling down. Me and you. We're about to get into the episode and what we're talking about. Me and Chris just went, because we're so thorough, we're such hyenas, we went back down to retrace our steps to make sure we're giving it to you guys correct. Because you know what this podcast is about? Historical accuracy.
Yes.
But I got big news, cuz.
What's the big news?
I told you already, now I want to tell the people.
Yes.
I want to tell all the hyenas out there.
Oh, I know what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured out my hair.
Woo!
Bardo. Hairspray, cuz.
Hairspray.
Fucking gel doesn't work. The way it works with Chrissy, it doesn't work with
I
me.
got a German Nazi head.
Right, but hairspray? Cuz, has my shit been in place? And there's been some pretty strong winds out there today.
It's March in New York City, and we were walking around downtown, high wind area, skyscraper area. Your hair has not moved since 2:15 p.m.
That's a beautiful thing.
And it's fucking currently 4:08.
And it also looks full.
It looks full, it looks good. Cuz you look good. I'm telling you, you look great.
Thanks,
you look great.
cuz.
I should,
Am I a cute kid, cuz?
You're a cute kid. You're a hottie with a body.
No, a couple cuties with smoothies.
Cuz I'm a little congested. I'm a hottie with a snotty right now. I was picking my nose a lot, no?
Yeah, you dig a lot. You dig a lot, too. Just in the car, too. You don't care.
I pick my nose in public. I eat boogers.
Yeah, you're not a fully developed adult.
My kid picks her nose now too, and her mom gets mad at me. She's like, "Why is Delilah picking her nose?" I'm like, "I don't know. Probably fucking from you."
Yeah, you do it right in front of her, right?
Yeah, pick the nose. I tell Delilah, "You can't pick your nose." And
You eat them, cuz?
Well, yeah. I mean,
What else-
protein. I gotta stay jacked. I got to protein out.
I mean, what else are you going to do with them, right?
Yeah, that's what I do for protein. I eat boogers and suck dicks. A lot of protein, a lot of semen, a lot of protein in semen, cuz.
Girls should know that. Look, we're not only a history podcast, we're also a nature podcast. So let's throw in a little nature fact. Latest studies, semen, a lot of protein, very healthy for you girlies and true blue gays.
I'm going to put out some new designer whey jizz flavor. Yo, you know what's wild too about something I learned when when I had a baby?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have the baby. I had
No,
a
if you were
pseudo penis.
if
I was hyena, I would have.
You would have.
Semen actually has natural properties in it that induce labor. So during the later stages, like once you're like at the 40 weeks gestation, the OBGYNs encourage women to swallow loads to induce labor. Yep, and that's what happened with us. Baby was a couple of days late, swallowed a little load,
and
next thing you know, pops out the baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, so sucking dick is positive.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go, ladies. You heard it from two of true blue gays. OG by I could never remember that acronym.
OBGYN.
OBGYNs.
Obi Cuck Kenobi.
Obi Cucks Kenobis right here. Giannis Yanni P. Obi-Wan Cuck Nobi.
Yo, so you got good news about your hairspray, and I got good news about the podcast, everybody. So we've made a fucking change.
It's been beautiful.
Okay, we've made a change. So now we're going to give you the entire podcast for free.
It's Christmas every fucking day.
It's Christmas every day. We're giving you everything for free. There's no half an hour for you for the freebies, half an hour Patreon, none of that shit. The whole thing is coming at you for free. So, but what that means is for us, at least is what we want to talk to you guys about, and girls and others. We're giving you everything for free. And, we appreciate all the support on our History Hyenas, on the Bay Ridge Boys. We appreciate all that. But listen, we're making independent content, and we're just asking you to consider becoming a member of our community on patreon.com/Bay Ridge Boys. Because if you become a member there, not only will you be supporting us and helping us make the podcast and our Bay Ridge Boy videos, which thank you very much. Thank you for your service. You also receive dope shit. You're going to get a lot of dope rewards.
I think one of the dopest parts of becoming a Patreon member, becoming a member of our community, is you get our history tour videos.
Yes.
I love making those. They're hilarious.
Yes.
Those are the behind-the-scenes videos that me and Chris make constantly when we're doing these tours and we're walking around New York City and we're amongst the history and trying to imagine what it was like back then. And guess what? You also get your name read on this podcast starting today.
Starting today, if you're a member of our Patreon community, if you're a member of our community, today we're going to read out everyone who joined up for Patreon because it's the first one. But then moving forward, you become a new member, we're going to read out your name. And also being a member of our community on patreon.com/Bay Ridge Boys, you're going to get bonus podcasts. So today we're going to talk about gangs in New York, but for the Patreon members only, we're going to get even more specific about certain characters who were alive at the times of the gangs in New York period, the 1860s.
Yeah, we're talking about Master Juba.
Oh, yeah. You want to give it away? Well,
Very interesting cat. No, I'm teasing it.
Okay,
we're not going to tell them about it. But if you want to hear it, we're doing a bonus podcast. It's available right now if you're listening to this on patreon.com. The Master Juba bonus episode by the History Hyenas.
Hyenas. All right. So, without further ado, today's podcast is based off the gangs in New York. It's specifically about the 5 points. So real quick, I just want to tell you the 5 points. It's a neighborhood in New York City. It was a neighborhood in New York City. It's still there today, of course, but
if you use your imagination.
If you got to Peter Pan that shit.
You got to Peter Pan that shit.
And it's where 4 streets, Anthony Street, which is now Worth Street, Cross Street, which is now Moscow Street, Orange Street, which is now Baxter Street, and Little Water Street, which is now not even a street anymore, converged. And at that point, the 4 intersections made 5 points, right there. Paradise Square is what they called it. And that was called the 5 Points neighborhood in New York City. And it was a pretty fucking crazy town. I mean, that part of New York City was, written about. They made the movie Gangs in New York about it. I'm sure you guys have heard of the 5 Points. I mean, everybody's heard of it. I mean, had you heard of it before the movie Gangs in New York?
I had not heard of it before the movie.
Wow.
I think most people hadn't heard of it before.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
You think Scorsese put it on the map?
Yeah, and a lot of those street names they're still named that today, right? Or are they all different?
Well,
a few of them are the same.
Well, Cross Street is it used to be called Cross. Now it's called Moscow.
Oh, that's Moscow.
Without the W, Moscow. Orange Street used to be called Orange Street, but now that's Baxter Street. Currently Baxter Street, and Anthony Street. Anthony Street. That used to be called Anthony Street, but now it's called Worth Street. So,
Wait, so they had an Anthony Street?
They had an Anthony Street,
but
yeah.
they didn't even. Italians weren't even there yet when they did that.
Yeah, Italians didn't come in the 1900s, but I guess everybody praises St. Anthony when they lose something.
I guess so, but there was no Italians there.
Yeah.
So that's weird that they had an Anthony Street.
And there was no Italians in that neighborhood, so guess what that means? The food probably sucked over there.
Probably fucking sucked.
Yeah.
But now,
what
those streets are. Yeah, I was just saying. Now they're called. It's called Worth Street now.
Called Worth Street now.
But that's how we say it. I think the people who inhabit what used to be the 5 Points would call it.
Yeah.
Because it's Chinatown.
Chinatown, baby.
They got a different way to pronounce stuff.
And that time, the 5 Points, what's interesting to me is with the no Italians there is how the food had to be awful and the racism probably wasn't as bad as we thought because the only Italians are the most racist people and they make racism as funny as possible.
They do.
So it probably I don't think it was as bad because Italians are the ones that really bring racism.
Let's talk candidly here. When it comes to food, Italians, number one, and like we were talking about before this cast when we were hanging out, not even close.
Right.
Not even close.
Right.
That's how good Italian food is. So Italians do food and fucking racism like nobody else.
Nobody's even close.
They are the Michael Jordan of racism.
Absolutely.
And food.
So
can you imagine this, cousins? We're talking about 5 Points. This is before Italians even came to this country, which I'm shocked there was a fucking street called Anthony.
We're talking mid-1800s, right, is where we're going to focus on. Mid-1800s. And, I mean, it was one of those places where if you watch the movie Gangs in New York by Martin Scorsese, fucking great Italiano guy, Martin Scorsese, he directed the movie. And, from what we could tell from our research, he really did a good job of capturing like the essence of what the neighborhood was, like the true racism there, the true hygiene, the true conditions, the true poor hygiene, the true like sentiment of the time, like what people were really mad at, what they liked, what they didn't like. From what I saw, from what I've heard from historians, how they recreated the town, which that was a studio in Rome. That's where they made that movie, just some studio lot in Rome. But Scorsese went to like great lengths to try to make it look like exactly what it probably looked like and felt like in the mid-1800s.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a documentary that he made, but, he focused on a couple characters.
Sure.
He did capture the ambiance.
The ambiance of it.
Yeah.
So basically, who you had there was first of all, it was a lot of gangs, of course, a big time gang activity. But mainly what you had blacks. You had the Native Americans, which were not like Sacagaweas. Yeah. We're not talking about the politically correct term for the Cleveland Indians.
Right.
We're talking about people who consider themselves native to America.
Protestants.
The
white wasps.
So the Bardo churches of the world.
Those were the fucking Bowery boys.
I don't think Bardo would have lived in the 5 Points, though.
But he wouldn't have been a tough guy, though.
No.
Yeah, he would have been called creative. He
would have been creative.
He would have been creative, which is code word for fucking gay.
He would have lived uptown too. A lot of the Upper East and Upper West Sides was where the real rich and wealthy lived. Yeah. Still to this day, kind of.
Yeah, they were trying to get away from the 5 Points.
So you had the blacks who were slavery wasn't abolished in New York until the 1820s. So, and I still think even after they abolished it in the 1820s, I'm sure you still had people not giving a fuck because it's the 1820s. It's not like, word takes a while to get around. So there was still, unfortunately, probably a lot of black people being enslaved.
And there was a lot of freed ones
absolutely.
That were freed from when New York was New Amsterdam. And a lot of them worked for the West Indian Dutch. What's that called?
The
Dutch West Indies Company.
The Dutch West Indies Company. Yeah.
Yeah. So a few of them had freed some of their workers.
Yeah. I'm not saying. Yeah. And I think being free back then is like quotes free. I'm sure that they still lived in fear and more persecuted big time. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And then you had the Irish. The Irish were a big part of New York City history because they had come over. The 1840s had a big Irish potato famine, so they started leaving Ireland and coming to New York in droves, and they were viewed by the Native Americans, who were the native Protestant New Yorkers as shit people.
Yeah, they hated the Catholics.
Talk about, the racism against the Irish was the same as it was against the blacks at that time. They were both equally hated groups.
They were fucking hated.
They hated, as a matter of fact, when the Irish were coming off the ships, they would get rocks thrown at them, potatoes thrown at them, told to get back into their boats and go home. They would be killed, murdered, and during the time of the Civil War, the Irish would come off the ship, and this is a scene in Gangs of New York, and it's actually historically accurate. They would come off the ship, sign a piece of paper that would make them a citizen, no test anymore. Now you got to go through 1,000 tests to become a citizen. You would sign a piece of paper to become a citizen, and then the next piece of paper that you would sign once you became a citizen is your right to waive your citizenship and join the army against your will. So these soldiers would come, land on the docks in New York City, take off their clothes that they were wearing from Ireland, put on a Union uniform, a Union Army uniform, and then march get on ships and go either down south or wherever the war was, probably down south, and fight in the war and die. So a lot of there were certain groups of Irishmen, there was known guys, a few known guys that they never really stepped foot in. They only stepped foot on the docks, on the pier, and then they went and fought, and they would get paid whatever bullshit money they would be given, and they would just be told, listen, you have to fight for your country. Because a lot of the native New Yorkers, like, Hyenas had mentioned the Bowery Boys. That was the character, Daniel Day-Lewis's character, Bill the Butcher. That's the character he portrayed. They didn't want to fight in the Civil War, and they didn't want anything to do with this new land with the Union seceding. They didn't want any with the Confederates seceding and all that. They didn't want any of that shit. What they wanted was they just wanted their country the way it used to be, which was being, having blacks enslaved and doing the jobs that they didn't want to do, and having the Irish come in and do the jobs that they didn't want to do. So when you start, when the Bill the Butcher and these like elite people started having to go to the war, it was a big problem. And then you start draft riots and stuff because nobody wanted to go. They only wanted to send the Irish and the blacks to go because they didn't want to fight. Listen, here's the thing. In the 1800s, think about it. Like, white people, they didn't care. They didn't care about slavery and stuff. I mean, it's horrible to think about now, but it's just the truth of what it was back then. They didn't care about slavery. They were like, I don't want to go fight a black man's war.
Well, they all hated each other. I mean, they were all competing for jobs, and then there was the fear that if the slaves were freed, they would take jobs. The native people, the Protestants, let's just call them fucking wasps.
The
wasps,
the
Irish. At this time, it was wasps in New York, wasps, Irish, and blacks. That's basically what you had, And they all were kind of fearful of each other. But there was also a lot of intermingling between them, probably, too. It was probably not that much different than today if you picture a poor neighborhood where those people lived together. The gangs probably hated each other because that was all about fucking territory and jobs and competing for fire. Back then, the firefighters was they went to the highest bidder. So a lot of these gangs were volunteer firefighters.
Almost the entire fire department were gangs.
Yeah, they were just
the Pug Uglies, the Bowery Boys. They were all these gangs just made up the original FDNY. And a lot of times houses would burn to the ground because anytime there was a fire, if a member of the Pug Uglies got there first, they would put a barrel over the fire hydrant and only lift it up for other Pug Uglies to fight that fire. So if the Bowery Boys came, they would be like, where's the fire hydrant? And Pug Uglies would be like, oh, I don't know. And then it would cause a big fight. And then the cops would come, and the cops were made up of all the Irishmen who the native gang members hated anyway. So there'd be fights between the cops and the firemen in the streets, and the houses would burn down.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, though. This was a neighborhood with new immigrants who were fighting to survive. Most above and beyond them being like gang members and stuff, these were just immigrants. A lot of them were trying to make money. A lot of them did have jobs, and they were sending money back, trying to get their family members to come with them. This was just the beginning of the modern America. And that's why I love the 5 points, because pre-New York at this time, beginning of the 19th century, when these wave of immigrants came from Ireland, no Italians in America, which is fucking hard to imagine.
Right.
This time, there's no fucking Italians. Irish, wasps, Native Americans, blacks, that's your country. And the country to this point had just sort of been Jefferson's kind of country, meaning, just Native Americans, the black slaves, and some freed slaves, and, the descendants, the Protestant descendants of, the first wave of immigrants that came here from England and whatever to escape, religious persecution. That was America. It was agrarian. Now factories are starting. Now they need jobs in the north.
Yeah.
The steam is powering shit. So that's rendering kind of slavery, the cotton ginny and all that shit's happening. Slavery's not really needed anymore, but they need workers. So now fucking the Irish are coming. So this is really, the 5 points is really the beginning of modern America. The America we know in urban areas and cities and these ethnicities that became American, like your boy Patty Fly Balls considers himself American.
He's American,
but he's as Irish as they come, and he probably goes back to the Pug Uglies.
Yeah, he probably Pug Ugly, and he, I'm sure he would have been. See, here's the thing too. What's something that switched back in the day? All these gangs. See, big thing that happened during the gangs in New York period and that 5 points period was Tammany Hall. This guy, Boss Tweed, corrupt politician, and Tammany Hall was basically Democrats. That was the old school Democrats, and they would rig voting. They would rig the voting booths. What they would do was, do you remember this? This is
barber,
sick.
dope.
Yeah. So what they would do is, if you would, first of all, when you would come off, there was usually only one guy not throwing potatoes and rocks at you if you were an Irish immigrant coming off those ships, and that was Boss Tweed and the members of Tammany Hall. Because what they wanted from the Irish was, because you just signed a piece of paper and you instantly became a citizen, what they wanted was your vote. So what they would do is say, look, come in here, we'll protect you, we'll give you jobs, give you a job right away, you don't have to go fight in the war, we'll give you a job right away. The only thing you got to do is you got to vote Tammany Hall. We were buying your votes. And they would tell them, like 3 months before the election, whatever election that was, they would say, grow your beard out, don't shave your beard or cut your hair. You would go in the day of voting, vote, then you would walk out the back door, and right there, right across the hall or in another room, a secret door, there would be a barber, and the barber would cut your beard down and cut your mustache down to like a handlebar mustache. So you look like a different person back then. You'd go in and vote. Second time. Then you go, after the second time you voted, they would shave the mustache off. You go in and vote a third time. So now you got one person voting 3 times, all for Tammany Hall. And there were this went on for years, and Tammany Hall would win election after election after election. And so in New York is primarily a Democrat place. But the thing is with Democrats, though, back then, is you got to think of it like the Democrats, they weren't like lefty. They weren't like left, kind of. When I think of Democrats, I think Democrats are like, free-spirited, fun-loving, but, they're liberal. It wasn't like that back then. No. It would be the Republicans were the Democrats and the Democrats were the Republicans.
They switched sides.
They switched sides. When? I don't know. Do you know when that happened, Giannis?
Man, that'd be an episode for another podcast.
Yeah, I don't know.
A podcast for another episode.
I don't know when
an episode for another podcast.
Yeah, you fucking... You got Alzheimer's?
I just switched sides, see?
Yeah,
episode for another podcast, or a podcast for another
episode. Are you bisexual?
Low back.
Yeah, like guys and girls.
But, Joe, New York was corrupt as fuck back then.
And you don't think it is still?
It still is, but back then it was...
Fuck you, de Blasio.
It was corrupt. No. Like, that's how things work. And even when you think about these fires that happen and all these gangs that had their different fire companies, back then that, like... They started fires and then showed up 100%. Just to get paid, Yeah, fires happen all the time.
I mean,
then.
the Italian. And that's the thing. I mean, the mafia still do that. I mean, mafia fucking start fires for no reason.
Insurance money.
Cuz. So that that's shit. That was going on. I'm big into gangs. I mean, I was never. Were you ever in a gang as a kid?
I was never in a gang.
No. I was in one gang.
You were in a gang?
Yeah.
You're a bad kid.
I was in a gang. I forgot what it was called. I
honestly forgot what it was called. Did your mother know about that?
No, but she won't listen to this podcast because we curse.
She was all right.
She told me that. She's like, I can't listen. Not if you're going to curse like that. My mom won't even accept my Facebook request because she's like, I don't want to know what you're up to with your sins. Yeah. The 40 Thieves. This is one gang which I liked. Did some research. I like the 40 Thieves. They were around between the 1820s and the 1850s, 5 points. They were Irish thugs. And what they were good at is they would pickpocket, and the big thing was they would pickpocket, and under the leadership of this guy, Edward Coleman, who in the movie The Gangs of New York, he's the guy that gets the axe to his back. I forget what the actor's name is, but he's been in a lot of shit. He's been in like fucking Braveheart, and he's just like your classic Irish face. If you want like a guy to play like a classic Irish fuck, it's this guy. Right. I forgot what his fucking name is.
Irish face.
Irish face, Edward Coleman. And the real Edward Coleman got like all these guys, like they start out with, like these noble causes where like he was saying like he was robbing, he would be robbing and then giving the money back to the poor because the Irish were being misrepresented, and he was like an Irish Robin Hood. Then they always get hung. He always got hung and his body got set on fire.
Yeah, that's
like
what
just what
happened back
happens.
then. Yeah.
Is it just karma?
Yeah,
you don't believe in karma.
Well, I just think back then everyone met a brutal end at some point.
Yeah, you didn't die easy back then,
No.
right?
Even that one dude. There was one dude with the gang. He ended up going and fighting in a war. Became a hero in World War One. Actually,
What?
Yeah, because he was.
Who?
The gangs went all the way up until the Italians. It's funny.
Yes.
We'll get there. I don't want to go there, but I like how the Italians came in and fucking unified the whole 5 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 5 Points gang.
Yo, because Italians are good at organized crime.
Yeah.
That's another thing they're good at.
Food, organized crime, racism.
Yeah, they're the Jordan of that. So you
Yeah.
had all these Irish gangs, all these Native American, all these WASP gangs. Let's just call them WASP gangs.
Yeah.
And then the Italians came to this country like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Why are you guys all fucking fighting each other? There's money to be made here. And these guys like, fuck you, we're from Ireland. Get out of here, you fucking greasy. And like, listen, all right, give you a fucking Guinness, but this is what you're going to do. Now you're my soldier. We're
Exactly.
gonna make some real fucking money here.
Yeah.
We're going to make some real fucking money.
And then it became like a.
Just became the 5 Points gang.
That's what it was called.
Unified the motherfucker.
So 40 Thieves, Pickpockets, Bowery Boys. This was the one who I said this is Daniel Day-Lewis's character, Bill the Butcher, with the long top hats. The Bowery Boys, this was like, I would say one of the most storied gangs of all of New York. And these guys were lower Manhattan guys, and they clashed. They would clash with the Irish 5 Points gang during the 1840s, 50s, and 60s. But the Bowery Boys, what was different about them, what was dope, is they were dressed elegant. They were dressed fucking dope as fucking snazzy.
Yeah.
Because their whole thing was like, listen, we're not like these Irish dirtbags, okay? We're not these. We're fashionable. We're in big top hats. We got big dicks. We fucking want to look like the Monopoly man while we bang you out.
Yeah, and a lot of them just had like real jobs, like butchers.
Absolutely.
Like William Toole actually was an actual butcher.
William Toole is the original. Bill the Butcher was a guy who existed, right? But the actual character, Daniel Day-Lewis's character, we learned was a mix of a few different guys.
Yeah, primarily two.
William Toole
and Hines.
Hines.
Thomas Hines.
Thomas Hines was the bare knuckle boxer, and we actually got a video of Thomas Hines' crib on our Patreon if you want to go look at it.
Check it out,
it's only
kiddies.
for Patreon members.
It's only for our kiddies.
And we also got videos of the 5 Points up there too.
We do.
So Bowery Boys, they were elegant as fuck, and they weren't on. When they, like Giannis said, when they weren't, being dirtbags, they would go to saloons, back alleys, and they would always have like these bloody turf wars with rival gangs like the Dead Rabbits. The Dead Rabbits were the gang. If you've seen the gangs in New York, that opening scene, it's the Bowery Boys, the ones we just talked about, versus the Dead Rabbits, Liam Neeson's crew. Which Liam Neeson, by the way, I think lives in my building. Somebody told me Liam Neeson lives in the building that I live in. Which is if Liam Neeson, bro, if I'm ever looking at my window and Liam Neeson comes scaling down, I'm gonna try to grab his Irish dick.
You got a couple. You also got a couple basketball players.
The Brooklyn Nets live in there. Yeah. But Liam Neeson, that has to be one of many homes Liam Neeson, one of apartments Liam Neeson owns.
Yeah. He's not even American.
No, he's fucking Irish.
Yeah.
Liam, I like Liam Neeson a lot. Do you like his movies?
He's a good guy. Yeah, I fucking like him.
He's
great.
The Dead Rabbits.
He's a good guy.
Hi.
You're from fucking Ireland.
So
fucking. They love the word fuck Irish.
Fuck.
He's fucking gay.
And they like the word shite.
A fucking shite.
I gotta take a shite.
I'll take a fucking shite on your face, you fucker.
I talk to my daughter sometimes in like an Irish accent when I don't want to like use like an actual shit curse word. I'm like, Delilah, did you just shite your pants?
Did you fucking
Did you just shite your diaper?
The thing about back then, the Wasps hated the Irish, but we gotta be honest and historically accurate here. It's kind of fucked up.
Okay.
They both hated the blacks.
Yeah.
The blacks had it the worst.
The blacks did have it the worst, but I think at that time in the 1850s, I think the Irish, according to the natives, I think they hated them both the same. Or you think they hated the blacks even more than the Irish?
I think they might. I mean, depending on who. I know the Irish and the blacks kind of mingled a little bit. There was even that one building, that story building that was supposed to be really violent. That had,
the old mission.
The old mission.
Where it's right now by the Tombs, where the prison, the Tombs is right now downtown Manhattan.
Exactly. Look how fucking smart my boy Chrissy.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a scene in Good Will Hunting. Yeah. Fucking. How about he got a number? How about them apples?
Chrissy fucking D.
But in that building, there were different floors, and
Yes.
those floors were divided by kind of Irish floor. There was an Irish floor, a black floor. You know what I
Right.
mean? But so
Now-
they mingled in that way. But they also kind of stayed separate. And one side of the 5 points was Irish, and the other side was black.
And see, and what they say is, with the 5 points mission, classic building, the exact spot it's really right in between two courthouses now. I'm forgetting the exact street, but. They said it was like the most dangerous place in the city. Probably they said the world. They said that it averaged a murder a night for 5 years. Now, and they said there's one notorious story of a little girl, 5 years old, who was playing with a penny and was murdered for her penny, and that there was thousands of bodies buried underneath that building. Now, look, I'm not saying that it wasn't dangerous back then, but that wasn't true, because when they excavated the building, they didn't find any bodies. I think they found one body. The story of the little girl was never confirmed in like police blotters back then, and the city of New York was actually even in the midst of the 5 points and the slums. It was really America's first slum. New York City was only averaging a murder a month.
Yeah.
So there's about 12 to 15 murders a year in the entire city. Because why? No guns.
Right.
People will get. I'm not
You get
stabbing.
stabbed up bad.
You get stabbed and beat up, but guns kill people. People don't kill people. Guns kill people.
Yeah, guns make it a lot
what is
easier.
it? What do you always say? Guns don't kill people. What do you say? You always fucking on your Facebook rants.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah.
With guns.
With
Yeah.
guns.
It's like the double standard. It's like, if guns don't kill people, people kill people. Well, then if guns don't, well, then by that logic, guns don't save people. People save people.
Yeah.
It's like, you ever notice the gun always gets credit for saving you, but
Right.
it never gets the blame for killing you. It's a little bit of both. I mean, people are This is all people play games with that shit.
I mean, and it's like crazy. Like even when we talk about history, it's just fucking wild. Like how could you imagine hating someone because of the pigment of their skin? How fucking ignorant you have to be.
It happens now.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm saying I get how there's people say, oh, there's differences, socioeconomic differences, all that. Yeah, but the bottom line is you're not liking them because of the color of their skin.
It's fucking wild.
Blacks versus white, white versus black, Asian. It's like that's fucking wild. I feel like an advanced race would look at us and be like, what? How fucking dumb
Yeah.
is this race of people that they're not liking each other. And they're killing each other because of shades of skin color.
It's fucking
Isn't
wild.
it fucking nuts when you think about it, when you break it down? Because that's what it is.
It's deeply embedded in our brain. We're tribal. Just a lot of animals are like that too, territorial. And
Yeah.
we got to get rid of that. We got to
but
shed
guess who's
that.
not tribal? Hyenas.
Hyenas. No,
That's
they
all-
just wild.
We fucking just go around and we fucking put our pseudo dicks in lion kills. That's what we do.
Hyenas don't discriminate. They're just fucking wild.
Google hyena births.
Yeah.
And it's probably, you won't be able to eat for about a week.
The female
Yeah.
hyenas have pseudo penises, is what they're called,
Yeah.
which is basically like a long, tiny. It looks like a penis, and they give birth out of that thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the hyenas die because they're basically trying to squeeze a baby newborn hyena through something the size of a clit,
Yeah.
and it fucking rips it. These things are savages. Savages.
Okay, so speaking of more savages, we have the 40
But that was a good point, though. I just want to harp on that point for a second. Is that it wasn't as dangerous a place as the rumors
Yes.
and the lore.
Yes.
It was actually, that's the thing. It was a dirty place,
Mm-hmm.
okay? There weren't a lot of, what was it, like fucking 2 toilets per tenement.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
Fires happened there.
Yeah.
It was a fire trap. You got
Yeah.
killed. It was a densely populated area.
Yes.
They even say it was like more dense than Bombay or something.
At the
that
time, yeah.
I mean, it was packed with people, new immigrants constantly coming in. These were new groups of people coming into contact for each other for the first time. But for the most part, it was pretty peaceful. They were
Yes.
poor. They were hardworking people. Yeah, there were gangs. Yeah, there was violence. All that stuff did happen. But for the most part, it was just a poor neighborhood, and it fucking stank because there was a lake there, and that's where the butchers dumped all their goddamn
there was
body parts
it was a
from the cows and shit.
It was called the Collect Pond, and Collect Pond is actually like a pond in the middle of downtown Manhattan, which is just there's a courthouse over it right now. You would never even know there was a pond there, and that's where, at some point it was the fresh water source for the city of New York in the 1600s and 1700s. But then it started to dry up, and people started to pollute it. They would the butchers would throw meat in there. People would piss and shit in there. In the summertime, it would be mosquitoes and everything, and it would stink to high heavens because they would never clean the water. So that's where the poor people would live.
That's crazy to think about that they lived like. When you look at what the 5 points used to be
Yeah.
and where the collect was, like people lived imagine living right next door to like a body of water that was just full of like rotting, like pig parts and like cow parts and like whatever.
Shit and piss.
I mean, it fucking reeked
bad. In the summertime,
bad.
How bad it would get. You would not want to wear your Jordans around there.
No.
You wouldn't be wearing your Jordans on Colac Pond.
No.
So, and that's, where, and then the really wealthy people start to move up northern, to the north part of the city, to the pretty much the upper east side and the upper west side. That's where you had a lot of the wealth. And then downtown by Colac Pond was all row houses and tenements, and it was disgusting down there. And then they started to build on Colac Pond, but realized it was just a swamp because the drainage was horrible. So it just became like a part of town that was just disgusting, and nobody wanted to go near it. But this stench was filling up the 5 Points at the time.
And what's so wild is that City Hall was really close to the 5 Points.
City Hall, where Boss Tweed would do all. See, like that's another beautiful part about 5 Points. What Giannis mentioned is, all this corruption and filth and disgusting behavior was happening all within feet of City Hall, which is supposed to be the pillar of excellency for a city and, the beacon of freedom and hope and all that stuff. So it was a really corrupt, crazy time, and it was so corrupt and so crazy. It was kind of like a human zoo. They would actually do tours. People would act. Charles Dickens went on the famous author Charles Dickens would go on these tours, and Horace Greeley and other famous American thinkers and philosophers and all that at that time, philanthropists, they would go on this tour, and they would have the tour guide would be a police officer who was known in the 5 Points at the time. And they show this actually also in the Gangs of New York. They would go and just walk through the neighborhood and just look at the people.
Yeah.
That's what they would do. And they would put scarves up to their nose and just watch the people. And the people would perform they would just do what they normally do, robbing people, beating the shit out of each other, public drunkenness, lewd behavior, prostitutes. People would come and just walk through, and they would pay money for a tour. Could you imagine touring a fucking neighborhood like that?
Yeah.
We should do Bay Ridge tours.
We should.
Yeah.
We should.
Seriously.
We should.
That's what you're going to get also on patreon.com for a fucking $200.
We'll
give you a private tour.
That.
If you go, we're going to pick a $200 option. We're going to give you a tour.
And just to piggyback, the lore of the 5 Points didn't start after the 5 Points. The lore of the 5 Points, the myth of the 5 Points, actually existed at the time of the 5 Points. So, to middle class people and upper class people, it started to be known as this crazy place, which actually was not that crazy. But these people were middle class and upper class. They didn't know how poor people lived, like immigrants lived. So they went there. They were so curious that they took these tours with police escorts, and they went down there and they saw it for themselves. And like you said, Charles Dickens was one of those guys.
Yeah. So we had, I just I like tying all this in with the gangs, because to me the gang.
I can't believe you were a gang member, cuz you're a fucking criminal.
Well,
you're a bad kid.
I want to go through some more of the gangs, and I want to find out which gang me, you, White Wasp, and Zachy Ice's face would be in. I want to see.
Okay, but I want to ask White Wasp a question real quick.
Go ahead.
You knew it, right? You knew this dirty fucking Irish kid at some point. They can't help themselves, can they?
Yeah.
These Catholics can't. They can't. The way he's looking at you, you can't help yourself. It's in your genes.
Look,
you do crime.
Sitting with his legs crossed like that,
Yeah.
he would have definitely taken a tour.
Yeah, I mean,
he would have walked through and be like, ugh.
He would have thrown up.
He would have said to his wife, "That was preposterous."
Yeah, it'd have been like, this is so gross.
Yeah, I feel like fucking Bardo and most wasps are born through a pseudo penis. Do you feel like that?
Yeah.
That's how they give birth.
Yo, the Wasps were really scared of Catholics back then because they thought the Catholics were more loyal to the Pope, and there was this fear that Catholics would come in here and they were going to try to take over.
Yeah.
And they were more loyal to the Pope than they were the American Constitution.
It's crazy.
So those guys were the first, get out of my country, and the Irish were the first, fuck you. They hated the Catholics, and they wanted to convert them. They tried to convert them constantly.
Can't convert the Catholics because...
You remember when you went in to get a meal? A lot of those Protestant missions down there, a lot of the people doing charity work who were Protestants, those women, if you wanted a meal, you'd have to convert to Protestantism before you got the meal. That's how fucking scared of the Catholics they were.
Fucking wild. All right, so another gang, the Dead Rabbits, which is, we're talking about Liam Neeson. This was the head of that gang in the movie Gangs of New York. These were more Irish immigrants. So you had the 40 Thieves and the Dead Rabbits. These are the Irishmen. Bowery Boys.
Dope names, by the way.
Native Americans. Yeah.
Dope names.
Dead Rabbits.
Dead Rabbits is dope. Pug Ugly's dope.
Dope. 40 Thieves, dope. So there's Dead Rabbits. These were this was kind of one of the most feared gangs, along with the Bowery Boys. I think that's why Scorsese, focused on them, because that's historically true. These were like the badasses, and They were, big time 5 Points gang. They 1850s was their heyday, and they were excelled at robbery, pickpocketing, brawling, and particularly with their sworn enemies, the Bowery Boys. So these guys used to love to pick fights with the fucking Bowery Boys. I mean, that's what I would have been loved to have seen, just fights between these gangs. Because I feel like nowadays, you get into a fight with a gang, you're going to get shot and killed. It's what it is. But then it'd be nice to take a good beating. Yeah. Some of these guys took good fucking beatings.
Some of them were actually bare knuckle fighters, as you'll find out as if you keep listening. Keep listening.
Yeah. So one person who was famous at the Dead Rabbits, and she was also portrayed in the movie, and I thought she was cool. She was called Hellcat Maggie.
Oh, she's the best, this broad.
She's fucking the best. She filed her teeth to points that she wore brass fingernails into battle, which is fucking wild. She was cutting people's faces out.
Yeah, you would have banged that out, though, no?
I would have banged her out. You fumes? You think she had fumes? 100%, right? Could you get through the 5 points? Could you get through a 5 points girl without smelling some fumes? I mean, it's impossible, right?
Gotta be some fumes, yeah.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do, right?
What are you gonna do?
I mean, Collect Pond had fumes.
Yeah, the whole place, everyone had fumes back then, guys and girls alike.
So another thing Dead Rabbits were big for is the events of July 4th, 1857, when one of the street fights with the Bowery Boys turned into a bloody riot that killed a dozen people. And actually, in the movie The Gangs of New York, they depict a riot, the Civil War riot, the draft riots of the Civil War in 1863. And they, we, from our research and from what BigOnion.com told us, is they don't think that riot, from like breaking down the riot that was in the Gangs of New York, that probably wasn't the Civil War draft riot. That was more likely this riot, this 1857 riot between the Bowery Boys and the Dead Rabbits, because it just historically, it just seemed like it made sense. They barricaded, the Dead Rabbits actually barricaded off streets and pretty much trapped the Bowery Boys. And it was just riots that lasted for like 4 days. And at least 12 people were killed. And it was fucking bad. And then the Dead Rabbits, supposedly, they began an offshoot of another gang called the Roach Guards. Fucking Roach Guard. Isn't Roach Guard like a roach deterrent thing right now?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what
Roach Guard.
Roach Guard?
That's a spray, I think.
The Roach Guard.
Sounds like it should be one.
Yeah.
They were probably named after roaches, but that's that's not a good name.
No.
Doesn't it say isn't there some evidence that maybe that's what the Bowery Boys called them? Like it was like a pejorative name, like Roach Boy, like
Roach
Roach
and the newspapers just called them that, Roach Guards, and that. Oh no, I think that their actual name was the Roach Guards, and the Dead Rabbits was the pejorative.
Oh, you're right.
I think.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. That is
one popular theory argues that the term Dead Rabbit was simply a pejorative used by the Bowery Boys and the New York press in reference to members of the Roach Guards and the 5 Points gang.
Yeah.
This next gang is the Daybreak Boys. These guys sound fucking cool. This extended into the waters of the East River. So you had some fucking actual pirates, like legit pirates, working the seas.
Yeah.
In the 5 Points, which was dope.
And these guys got their name because that's when they fucking did their crime.
Yeah, it's Daybreak. And they were called
which makes it hard for me to believe there was no Italians around.
Why?
Because Italians are usually the one that nickname people based on the worst thing that they do.
Yeah.
It's like, if one guy's got a lazy eye, they goes, hey, there goes pirate over there. Goes Captain to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Or if a guy doesn't leave his house till after 4, he's like, hey, there's Jimmy the Mole, So if they called them the Daybreak Boys, you would figure Italian would have named them the Daybreak Boys. Like, hey, these fucking guys, this is when they do their crime.
Yeah.
The Daybreak Boys.
I don't know.
But no fucking Italians.
No Italian, which fucking sucked.
I mean, you think they were just eating potatoes? What did they eat? Potatoes and mutton? Your people stink, Bardo. Your food and cuisine is horrific.
Yeah.
ISIS fucking Middle Eastern food, good.
Hummus.
Greek food, good. Your people, the Irish,
number one.
Fucking gross. The other half of your genes, Italians, probably barf. Every time they realize that you're mixed with the Irish cuisine, your people ate fucking potatoes, cuz. That's all you got is potatoes.
My father's mother, when he came home, was like, marry an Irish girl. She was probably like, why?
Yeah, what you doing?
Why? What is she going to feed you?
I mean, gross.
What is she going to make?
And wasps even worse. Like, what do they do? Scones?
Ugh.
You do scones and tea?
And fucking teas.
When you've been to Britain, right? Their whole cuisine is basically Indian cuisine, which is good.
Yeah, but without the flavor.
I like Indian food. I mean,
I'm saying the British is Indian cuisine with no flavor.
Yeah.
At least Indian food has flavor.
But they had to borrow another cuisine because they just it's like to fill a void. Like fucking wasp people.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys eat. Eggs? Boiled eggs?
And it's like
toast.
Toast, yeah. Fucking marmalade.
Gross.
And it's like Britain almost ruled the entire fucking world. How do you not pick up one piece of food.
Exactly.
So Daybreak Boys, these guys were river pirates, 1840s, 50s, 60s, and they had their leaders had colorful monikers such as Cow-Legged Sam McCarthy. You think that's because he had a big dick? Cow-Legged?
Told you, sounds like these guys were named by Italians.
And Slobbery Jim because he was talking.
His name was Slobbery Jim?
Slobbery Jim.
Doesn't it sound like Italians name these guys? Like this guy fucking, he spits a lot. It's fucking Slobbery Jim down there.
These guys would use small rowboats, and a lot of them were juvenile gangsters, and they would silently row their way alongside anchored shipping vessels, sneak it aboard. They'd steal as much cargo as they could before returning to their dinghies and escaping to a rendezvous point to a gin mill in the Fourth Ward. Yeah. So the Fourth Ward, I think, was more like the Fourth Ward was like 5 Points is pretty much like Little Italy, Chinatown area. The Fourth Ward was like the neighborhood over, so that would be like Houston Street and stuff. That was the Fourth Ward.
Yeah.
And Daybreak Boys used to kill a lot of people, and they would slit the watchmen's throats. That's usually what they would do. That's how you knew it was a Daybreak Boy.
They were pretty brutal, these guys.
Yeah. Then the last one I want to talk about before we talk about the big guys, the 5 Points gang, is the Whyos. Whyo! They were formed from the remnants of the several defunct 5 Point outfits. So a lot of 5 Point gangs would just stop being gangs because the Irish would move out, or the blacks would move out, or the Native Americans would move out. So like there would be like little bullshit, splinter gangs, and this was one of them. They started out as a loose collection of petty thugs, pickpockets, and murderers, but by the 1880s, they graduated to more high-class crime like counterfeiting, prostitution, and racketeering. This sounds like mafia shit.
Yeah.
We're getting close now.
We're getting close.
We're getting close. The Italians coming. We start hearing racketeering, counterfeiting, and prostitutes.
Yeah, but
as Italians call them toots.
Yeah.
I have I have a friend who's like real Italian kid. He goes, yeah, I got a fucking toot last night. I'm like, what, you fart? He goes, nah, hookers.
A lot of the blacks in the 5 Points, they that's when the blacks started moving to Harlem, actually, because they wanted to escape. The Irish, I mean, let's be honest. We got to be honest
Keep
about
it 100.
it. Blacks had it the worst, dude.
Absolutely.
Fucking Irish discriminated against them. And even the riots of 63, it was the fucking Irish that didn't want to go to the war, and they ended up taking it out on the blacks, and they ended up hanging a few blacks.
Yeah.
Innocent dudes.
Because the mindset, you got to understand. Because it's today it's like obvious. It's like, yeah, this is fucking all absurd, and it's about pigmentation, and it's just stupid, and like kind of like it seems like a fucking this primal mutant of a human. It's just
tribal.
Yeah, it's we're not as developed. They weren't as developed as we are now. And they haven't lived as much life. So whatever. But back then, nobody wanted to go fight in the Civil War. New York actually. They were the Union. I mean, it's a northern state, but they didn't care about. They wanted slavery. They did not want to fight what they were calling the Black Man's War, and the Native Americans were worried that if you freed the black slaves, then what that was going to do is make the Irish take the slave jobs, and then the Native Americans would have no jobs. So they felt like you just get the Irish out. Fucking keep the slaves enslaved, and the economy will keep working for us, the white man. But, of course, as we know now, that's not the way it is. I mean, could you imagine fucking what, like, Bill the Butcher and these guys and, like, the Dead Rabbits and mainly the Bowery Boys, like, what they would think of New York now? They would probably hate it.
Yeah.
Even though it's so much better, they would be like, no. They would not.
They might like it, though.
You think they would?
I don't think anyone loves. Yeah, look. These were poor people trying to fight to survive. So they resorted to tribal ways to kind of protect themselves. Police was corrupt.
Right.
It's like these are people in a strange land, so they clung to their own for protection.
Well, and what's good about the Bowery Boys and most of these gangs, if you just press the button and put them into the world today, especially some of these fucking Williamsburg areas, they would just look like hipsters.
They would look exactly.
Bill the Butcher could walk around Brooklyn right now and nobody would bat an eye. They'd be like, "This." I'm telling you, if you play that game, Hipster or History, you can't tell which is which.
You can never tell.
Which is kind of cool, but it just really makes you want to punch a fucking hipster. For some reason, it just makes me want to uppercut them. Yeah. But it's kind of cool. And I think I want to uppercut them because I'm not as cool as them.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, a lot of them are just a little dirty.
Yeah,
and
right.
When you look at history, figures. They were a little dirty. It's like,
Yeah.
Come on, cuz.
I got
Clean
chlamydia
up.
twice. Both times it was from hipster broads.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
You got chlamydia twice, but you know what?
Yeah.
You don't look like a guy that has,
Nah.
you're trimmed up.
Yeah.
Trimmed up. You're gelled up. You're trimmed up. You look clean.
Yeah, I look clean, but sometimes you got a dirty dick. So
What about the pug uglies, though? You didn't even.
I didn't talk about the pug uglies. I mean, basically the pug uglies were just Irish fucking. They were the firefighters. The pug uglies were the original firefighters, and they were just. I mean, just think about like if you could press. Just think about like if a bulldog fucked an Irish scone and put on a leprechaun outfit. That's what a pug ugly looked like. They were just ugly. They're called the pug. I mean, they look like.
That's my favorite name.
Pug uglies. Yeah, they.
Was it? You think it was? Did they have pug dogs back then? Where did they get that name?
I don't know.
Yeah,
You're the nature boy.
Or is the dog? Or is the dog named after those guys?
True.
I mean, I don't know.
Could you imagine you're so
We don't know
looking
that.
you look like a pug?
Yeah,
That's a fucking
weird.
weird.
Mashed in nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last gang I want to talk about, the 5 Points gang. Now this gang, this is
later now.
This is later. Now we're talking 1890s, but it's, it just gets near and dear to my heart. This gang.
These are both because you're a lot Irish too, cuz.
Yeah.
You are Irish and Italian. We should on this podcast as we go on. We need to do ancestry.com again and find out or me and you should research your records to find maybe your ancestors were in the 5 Points.
They might have been in the 5 cuz that would be wild. If I'm direct descendant from the Points.
There's a good chance of that.
Yeah, because my family that lives in the Bronx, none of them have teeth. Nobody have teeth. No, I mean it's like crazy. Like they have a few teeth between 6 or 7 people.
And
my dad has no teeth. My dad has 0 teeth. I mean he has dentures, but he has had no teeth for a long time.
And your family can't trace the origins, right? Everyone just kind of know, like we've been here for a while.
And my father grew up in the Bronx, but went to high school in the Lower East Side, Seward Park High School, which is very close to the 5 Points.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But he was from the Bronx, though.
Born in actually Harlem.
Yeah. Interesting. But you're from your DNA, it looks like you're like Irish and Italian. So there's a good chance you're 5 Points guy.
Could be 5 Points dirtbag.
Yeah.
All right. So this last gang, the 5 Points gang, legendary mob came together in the 1890s when the Italian gangster.
Now the Italians are coming here.
Italian
Hey,
gangster.
sono ciao bella.
The Italian gangster's name was Paul Kelly. That's not an Italian last name, but his real last name was like Vigiano or something. But he made it Kelly just to sound more Irish because back in the day, you want to be a fucking gangbanger in the 1890s before the Italians came, you had to sound more Irish.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul Kelly. And he united the remaining members of the Dead Rabbits, the Wayus, and the other 5 Points gangs under his own banner. From his headquarters in the New Brighton Dance Hall, Kelly marshaled an army of 1,500 thugs in bloody turf wars with his arch rivals, the Jews.
Eastman, right?
Yes, the Jews gang run by the former hood Mark Eastman.
They were a little more nervous, but they were vicious.
ISIS face is jerking off, and I was like, fuck the Jews! Fuck the Jews! Kill the Jews! Death to the Jews! Yo, fucking ISIS face just popped up. He was starting to nod off.
Yeah, he's
hard
a
as
big
rock.
fan of the 5 Points gang.
Don't come on me, Zach. The two groups then engaged in constant brawls and once even squared off in a massive gun battle under the 2nd Avenue L train.
Yeah, because now we're getting into later where the guns are there.
There's not even a 2nd Avenue elevated train line anymore.
Yeah.
When they weren't participating in Wild West-style shootouts, the 5 Pointers ran widespread robbery, racketeering, and toot rings. They also dabbled in legitimate front businesses and worked as strong-arm men for the corrupt Tammany Hall political machine. The gang's influence eventually waned in the 1910s, but not before they helped train the next generation of mob bosses. Among others, the 5 Points initiated thugs, maybe you heard these guys, Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, and Johnny Torrio into a life of organized crime. See, when the Italians come, everything gets a little better, a little safer.
They definitely organize. Yeah, they're good at it, man.
So it's crazy. Lucky Luciano and Al Capone they kind of are directly connected to the 5 Points gangs.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you, 5 Points is really the birth of the modern urban America.
Absolutely.
Do you know what you never hear about in history, though? I guess the African Americans who were living in the 5 Points, they didn't have a gang. I guess they were just blacks, you know. Everyone just knew, and they were like, "Yo, we got to get the fuck out of here." And they left to Harlem because these Irish dudes are crazy.
Yeah,
these wasps are crazy. We got to bounce. So they went to Harlem, dude. They tried to get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, old school New York. If you ever have time, if you're in the New York area, go. Of course, go see the Freedom Tower, go see Times Square, go see all the touristy shit. But really, just for me, just walking around, you would never even know. You could drive past it's called Columbus Park, which is where the Paradise Square was, where the intersection of the 5 points actually was, where the actual direct location was, and you would never even know. It's right now. It's just it's a Chinese neighborhood. There's Chinese people doing Tai Chi in the park, and you would never know that like this used to be where, as Giannis said, where like modern America as we know it today started. Was born out of the fucking slum, mud, and shit and piss of the 5 points.
Lower Manhattan was really the city of New Amsterdam, and then New York was all concentrated down in Lower Manhattan. The Revolutionary War, all that shit was happening in walking distance from what became the 5 points. And when the immigrants came, that's the 5 points is where everything spread from. People, the Irish, and then the Italians, and then the Chinese. Yep. They all came and lived in the 5 points and then made their money, established their trade, and got out. And everyone spread out. And that's really the beginning of city life with immigrants and all these people. And the Italians came, and they fucking brought the good food. Maybe everyone chilled out when they were able to get lasagna. Can you imagine being, I know I'm talking about food a lot, but nobody ever talks about the role that must play.
Of course.
How angry a dude are you going to be when you're eating a boiled potato with salt on it? I'm going to join a gang.
And it smells like shit everywhere.
It smells like shit everywhere, and you're eating a fucking boiled potato.
Yeah.
That's what you're eating. Or a piece of meatloaf. Are you kidding? And then these Italians come, and they're like, boom. Look at what we're doing with the tomato. We just made you, my grandmother just fucking made you homemade lasagna. And you're sitting there going, what the fuck's lasagna?
Yeah.
Hey, come here, Chris.
Put it in your face, you fucking roach.
This guy Vinny's just talking, this is our new food court. Can you imagine the first time an Irish guy tasted lasagna?
Oh my God.
Then he was like, you know what? He melted. He went from a tough fucking Irish guy to like fucking, I just gotta chill out, dude.
Yeah.
And that's why the Italians were able to unify all when they came. The wave of Italian immigrants came, and they organized the remnants of those gangs. They were able to do it so easily with the fucking food.
Italians are good people.
Because they gave them all lasagna, and those fucking Irish, they couldn't believe what they were tasting, cuz.
Italians were good kids.
It's not in the history books, but you heard it here.
Irish kids, good kids. Blacks, good kids. Chinese, good kids. New York's a bunch of good kids, okay?
Good kids.
New York City, like I said, go walk around, check it out. We got some videos up on our Patreon page of, because what's interesting to me is like these historical places that we mentioned. There's like, don't forget the 1850s and 60s, that wasn't that long ago. There was pictures of it. So it's like, we know like the Bowery Boys hung out at 40 Bowery Street. Like we know that. And it's like, now it's like, you go to these places and it's just a fucking T-Mobile store. And it's like, you would never know. Like the millennial kid playing fucking Angry Birds on his phone has no idea that Bill the Butcher used to shit there. Yeah. He has no idea. Yeah. And he probably wrote a sweeping freaking epithet about how racist gangs in New York was and how he's like, it just offends me. And it's like, you're working under his ghost, and ghosts are real, and it's going to fucking haunt you, millennial piece of shit.
Well, you go down there now, it's interesting because you get Little Italy's still there. Yeah. There's a remnant.
Well, like
a block now.
Yeah, it's like a block. Yeah, it's sad. The Italians,
Chinese spread out.
Yeah,
and the Italians left. But the Chinese stayed when that wave of Chinese immigrants came, and a lot of them, listen to this, which is very interesting.
Oh, yes, this part.
The Chinese came later. So basically, the Irish came first to the 5 points. Mm-hmm. The freed blacks were there in the 5 points. The WASPs, the Bowery Boys, they were there. Lower class WASPs, but they had trades and stuff, but they weren't rich, were there. And then the Italians came and the Chinese came.
Yes.
And the Irish left, the Chinese stayed, and the Italians stayed. And then the Italians have left, a lot of them have left, there's still a little bit, and the Chinese just fucking stayed.
They just stayed.
It became Chinatown.
But tell them, I thought you were going to tell them about the Irish and the Chinese. Tell them about that. This is wild to me.
When the Chinese and Irish came, a lot of the Irish would send, the families in Ireland would send just single women there because it was such a great place for women to work.
And then you would send the money back to Ireland.
Send the money back to Ireland. So a lot of those, even the first department store, which was down across from Woolworth Building, what was it called again?
Stewart's
was
the first department store.
And he employed all Irish women workers in his factory up there.
Yeah, it's right on Broadway and Chambers Street, right at that intersection. It's now a Modell's.
It's a Modell's.
Swear to God.
But that's
swear to God.
That's the original building, the original Stewart's. The guy became a fucking millionaire back then. And he used on the backs of female Irish workers in his factory. They were sewing and shit. So the women would come single from Ireland, single women, young women, and the Chinese would send dudes, strictly dudes alone.
Yeah.
Because there was work for dudes. So they wouldn't come as family, and they were living together in the 5 points.
Yep.
The single Irish women and the Chinese dudes. And guess what happened?
Yep. Guess what happens? What do you get when you mix a fucking little baby fucking wonton dick with a potato puss?
You get
biracial
babies.
You get biracial Chinese and Irish babies, and that was
bicultural. Whatever.
Bicultural, and actually
happened a lot.
One of the only Chinese Roman Catholic churches is right on Mott and Pell Street, right where Mulberry Bend was, right in the pretty much heart of 5 points. There's still to this day a Roman Catholic Chinese congregation because of Irish being Catholic, and the Chinese normally aren't Catholic. Chinese are Presbyterian.
They are Buddhists.
Oh,
Usually.
Buddhists, yeah.
Yeah,
and so you had a lot of Chinese men, mixed with Irish women, and I'm sure it was frowned upon at the time. I would imagine, right?
Probably, but it happened a lot.
It happened a lot. So there's
in the 5 points,
a lot of half Chinese, half Irish people that probably still. I bet you if we walked around long enough, we would still talk to the people in Chinatown. You would meet some Chinese Irish people's descendants of that. I mean,
Absolutely.
you have to, right?
Yeah. A lot of them intermingled and intermarried, and a lot of them, the Chinese had to convert to Roman Catholicism because you know how the Irish are. They're fucking devout.
Yeah, like,
his mom won't even listen to this podcast. That's how devout she is.
That's how devout she is.
And the Chinese don't give a fuck. They're like, yo, we're Buddhist, or we're Taoist or whatever. We're like, whatever, we're spiritual. And then these Irish girls are like, no, we have to go in the church and get married proper for Jesus. And he's like, I'm getting that red puss.
That's
good.
It.
I'll do it.
I want to do a whole podcast about Chinese New York because it's fucking wild. I mean, and I love walking through. 5 points is like I said, it's mostly Chinese now, and like I don't know what the words are on the awnings and stuff, and most people are speaking in Chinese, but it just looks like a fun place.
It does.
It's like a dope place.
They're always doing Tai Chi.
Yeah, they're healthy as fuck.
They are healthy as fuck.
They're the most. I mean, it's like the Olympic. When you go into these parks, it's like they're Olympic athletes, and they're 75-year-old dudes.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a smell down there still because they got all that street fish out there, and
don't smell great.
Yeah, don't smell great. Chinatown
don't smell great. But you know what's cool about it is it kind of takes you back in time because that's probably what New York used to smell like.
It's just a hint. It's not even close to how bad it used to be.
Yo, I hope you guys enjoyed fucking this episode. And guess what we're going to do now? Want to read some Patreon names?
Listen, this is the exciting part.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your service. We're up to, 98. We just started.
98.
A couple days ago, we launched our Patreon page, which is Patreon is a legit website. It's the best website to come along for independent dudes like me and Chris who are making stuff. You guys support us directly. You allow us to continue to make this content. You help us pay production costs. It's because of you, and we want to thank you. So we're going to thank each and every one of you fucking individually.
Okay. So, all right, I'll start out then. First of all, we got to start off with the hundos. The $100 rewards. I'm going to get this right, even though I know it's a Greek name.
I'm going to let you go for
Seriously,
it.
Seriously, do you know this name? Let me see if I can get this. Dimitros? Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Dimitrios Vertioris.
Beautiful.
Nice, nailed it.
I mean, you did it like an Italian, too.
He's a hundo. And then Bobby Ziadi.
Bobby Ziadi.
Bobby Ziadi's a hundo.
But he's not Italian, Bobby Ziadi.
No?
No, I think he's Middle Eastern.
Okay.
Bobby Ziadi.
Fucking Zach Ice's face he gave a little fist bump.
Yeah, how would we pronounce Ziadi?
Yeah.
Sounds Italian, but it's not.
How do you say that? Ziadi?
Yeah.
Ziadi.
Ziadi.
Yo.
Bobby Ziadi.
Is this guy funneling his money? Is this a real hundo or is this a fucking front because he's funneling for ISIS?
He owns Townhouse 275.
Oh, Townhouse 275. Bobby Ziad.
And Dimitri owns Nature's Grill. So
great.
Shout out
to Bay Ridge Buttes.
And they support us, and you can see their logo on the back of Chris Mullen and the crew of 82, Bay Ridge Boys episode 4.
You want to read these 25s and then I'll read the 5s?
Yeah. Dino Dotsikas, Susie Diok, I think. Is she Greek or is she Scandinavian? Diok. D-O-A-K.
Oh, she's Scandinavian. Giannis is going to look at her Facebook.
Woo! Sal Cacciano. Oh, yeah. I'll let you read that. Sal Cacciano.
There it is.
Thank you, Sal Cacciano. Sonia Gonzalez Martinez. That's my girl. That's it. I know her. She's great. She works with Angelo. There. Thank you for donating. Damn, she gave us 25. Sonia, thank you. I know Sonia. That's so nice. She does a great web series with Angelo and Tammy called Get Some. Daniel Venturini.
Yeah.
Oh, the Italians are coming for you, cuz.
Hell yeah.
Anthony DeStefano.
That's my pops.
Is that your pops?
That's my pops. Yo, this guy gave $25 a month. Pops, you owe me $25. Guess I'm paying myself.
All right, then we got Mark Gessner.
Oh, shout out Mark Gessner. Hey, Benders, check out Mark. Mark Gessner is the voice of Red Lobster commercials. Anytime you hear a Red Lobster commercial, it's Mark Gessner's voice.
Thank you, Mark. And then we got Michael Highland. Thank you, guys. You're our $25 crew. I think those were the Hyenas or are those fucking Wild Boys?
Those are the what do we call it? Let's call the 25 the pseudo penises.
Pseudo penises.
Those are the pseudo penises, the PPs. Okay, now the $5 rewards. We got a bunch. We got Jenny Russo. Thank you.
My friend Jenny Russo from high school. Wow, the first round are going to be personal people.
RC, just fucking RC Cola. And then, oh my God, we got one of, if I could get this name right.
I can't even get it.
If I could get this name right, I'll massage my balls on Facebook Live. Demo Kustogianopoulos.
Giannopoulos. That's Giannopoulos. That's a Greek name right there.
Oh, Zach Ice says we got a Jew coming up. Levi Uribe. You all right? Okay. Ryan. This guy's name is just Ryan. Zyra Zales, Pete Illich, Alejandrina Shabazz, Ryan.
They got two Ryans?
Yeah. Tiana Hairston. Thank you, Tiana. You show us a lot of love on Instagram. Thank you. David Lewison. Thank you, Big Dave, St. Joe's alum. Dennis Price, Rena Lawrence, Jeff Venecia, who's making all the Facebook art. One of the guys who's making.
Don't stop doing that. It's
hilarious.
Don't
stop, Jeff. Thank you so much. You and this guy Andrew Argos.
Yeah, thank you for your
Jeff
service.
Venecia, thank you. Yo, you're making the Facebook art you're making is fantastic. Brian Trowell, Brent Rolick, Gregory S. Yanalfalo, David Hines Ketchup, Jessica Holzinger, Chris, no last name, Antonio Reed, Dan Deschamps, Mark from Mass, Graham, Donald, Jessica Tortes, Quit Being Stupid, Bew Crunk, Chris, Jocelyn Noyes, Rob Oakey, Jacob Kubrak. Thank you, Jacob.
Joe Larson,
comedian who's fucking jacked out, good personal trainer, cute.
And funny.
Nikos Maridakis.
You're killing it.
Joseph Sanchez, Vincent Ray Romano, Joseph Siciliano, Ernie.
I like Ernie.
Frank Gallo, Frankie,
my old boy Frankie Gallo.
Jace, thank you, Jace. Eric Basinger, no relation to Kim. Marco Krivokopik.
One of my closest boys right there.
Yes.
Thank you, Marco.
Samuel Peck. Joe Galino, who's fucking sounds like, fucking a 5 Street boy.
That's a fucking,
that's a 5-pointer right there.
In the early 20th century.
Matt McKay. Here come the Pogoglies.
Fuck you.
Matt McKay, Brian O'Callaghan, Reagan Harshembolt. Oh, Mr. Panos.
What the fuck is that?
I guess
Mr. Panos got in here?
I guess you did.
I guess that means I donated to myself.
There you go.
See, we're not asking you to do anything we're not doing.
Victoria Febo.
Yep.
Christina Chianki. Luke Klimachevsky.
Cianci. Jesus.
Christina Cianci.
Luke
Klimachevsky.
Wow.
Thank you, Luke. Good friend of mine. We call Luke is one of my boys I went to college with. We call him Eskimo. We call him Klondike.
Klondike?
Yeah. Kimberly Vanderwall. Oh, this is an original fucking elite. Kimberly Vanderwall.
Look at
Dutch.
Bardo just got hard.
Yeah, Bardo's going to look at her Facebook. And Jonathan L. Washburn. Those are the $5.
That's my boy, Jonathan Washburn. We did social work together. Shout out, Jonathan. Thank you, guys, each and every one of you for donating to our Patreon page. We got additional donations from Bread Butter.
No, you got to read the dollar rewards.
That was the dollar rewards.
No, those were the 5s.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Dollar rewards are as follows. We appreciate you guys just as much. Last but not least, Kelly Webb, thank you. Melissa Dawkins, you the girl. Justin Stonebreaker, thank you. Stephanie Gaudrew, can you help me with that one? Gaudrew?
Gaudrew?
Yeah, Gaudrew, right? Stephanie Gaudrew.
Stephanie, let me see.
Yeah, Gaudrew.
Yeah, Stephanie Goudreau.
Goudreau.
Yeah, or Gaudreau.
Yeah, Gaudreau. Thank you. Jonathan Aruda, thank you. Ninzinga?
Nzinga?
Thank you, girl. I hope that's a girl.
Yeah.
Natalie Laren, thank you. Nate Chevalier, thank you. Richard Cordero, thank you, cuz. Jessica Lanzola, you're the best. Jonathan Baxley, yas. Larry Pappas.
Oh, yeah, it's this guy I jerked off on my face for this guy, right?
Oh, Larry Pappas,
Yeah.
yeah. Look, anytime you join when we go live, Chris will take dicks to the face.
100%.
Cody Cullen, you're the best, you pug ugly. Lisa Mojica, thank you. Gus Ingraciota.
Gus Ingraciota, yeah.
Gus
Or
Ingraciota.
Ingrasciota.
Ingraciota. RV, you the man. Daniel Goldkrantz.
Oh,
Uh-oh,
Zach just got
ISIS.
sick.
Thank you, Daniel. Pasquale Carafano, thank you. Orestes Varvidiotis.
Holy shit.
Thank you, family friend. Appreciate it, Orestes. Ed Dyuk. Ed Docyuk? I don't know.
Duchy?
Docyk. Dyuk. Ed
Yeah.
Dyuk. Thanks, cuz. Joe Moxley, Zeb Krunloff, and Edwin Canuelas.
Oh, Edwin Canuelas. That's my daughter's uncle. That's a family.
yeah.
That's fucking that's my kid's uncle. That's Jasmine's brother.
Thank you, Edwin, so much,
Yes.
cuz. All right.
All right, you want to do additional?
Go ahead.
Additional donations. We'd like to thank Bread Brothers Bagel Cafe, Stavros Anaganu, Rich Prado, Brenda Victoria Christie, Virginia Busakis, and Jamilia Musillo.
We thank each and every one of you. It's because of you we're continuing to do this, and we're expecting you tell your friends, spread the word. History Hyenas, Bay Ridge Boys episode. What is it? 5?
Episode 5 is in production.
It's in production, and we're just having a great time.
Oh, it's actually episode 6
It's
is in
episode
production.
7. Yeah, we got
Yeah.
word from Bardo. It's actually episode 6. We've done 5.
Yeah.
Go watch all 5. Tell your friends about them. Episode 6 coming at you.
Yeah.
This is coming every week, Sunday at 6 p.m. These episodes are available. They're up earlier on our Patreon page. If you're a true fucking cuz and you're a member of our cuz
A
community.
true blue gay. Patreon.com/Bay Ridge Boys. Find me on everything on social media at Chris D Comedy, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Chris DiStefano.
You know the deal. Hyenas Pappas, one word everywhere.
That's it. Love you guys. Thanks for listening.